We're traveling through the ages. We're going back in time. What was good or bad? Did it ever draw a dime? My God, we're back. Episode 2 finally, guys. Right here on Hibiki TMD. Drew Ortman, welcome back to the channel, buddy. How you been? How was your little time since our last episode? Where can everybody catch you?
I am fantastic. That intro was amazing. Loved it. And everybody can catch me at Drew Ortman on Twitter, at kayfabe today, at PW Journal, and kayfabetoday.com.
Very good, very good. As always, guys, catch me on Twitter at the TMD, the Reset Button Slam Pigs Podcast, Cruise Control, this Never Drew a Dime, and Slam Pigs Union Smacks coming back with our dear pally Robbie from our show Kayfabe today, of course, at first in the morning. Woo! Like Drew said. Woo! And there's going to be a lot of woos because if you guys liked our first episode, and by the way, thank you guys so much. You got nothing but positive feedback on episode 1. So you guys are solely the reason we do this. And our sick obsession with going back in time and torturing ourselves sometimes with this. I feel like this episode this week, Drew, was much faster paced, if anything rings to mind, than the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. It flew by. It was which is weird too, because I think it had more matches, which you'd think would make it kind of more extended, but just everything was more entertaining, I guess, than last week.
Yeah. Last week it was January 2nd, 1982, the inaugural, quote unquote, because not the original, but the inaugural debut episode available on the WWE Network. That's what we're doing right now. We're in World Class Championship Wrestling, going down the line. Episode 2, I believe the 9th or the 8th of January. I can't remember the date. Do the math, Travis, you idiot. But yeah, we find ourselves back in the Sportatorium. First episode, we did a great injustice to one of the greatest commentators of our time, Drew. Gene Goodson was the name of the man we could not remember.
Gene Goodson.
Holy
Absolutely.
shit, I can see why Bill Mercer eventually filled in the shoes as the full-time... I mean, we got some good takes from Goodson tonight, but he stumbles a lot. He's incoherent at certain points. I don't know about you, because this week we didn't... last time we had Jose Lothario, color comedy. We had the man himself, Fritz.
Yep.
Originally.
Who he called the #1 wrestler in the world.
Well, yeah, it's his territory. You go to any territory back. Vern Gagne was the greatest, and fucking Lanny
Okay, when you introduce me, do not forget to call me the #1 wrestler in the world.
I just say one thing. You can say what you want about guys like Santino Marella and Boris Zukov, but Fritz von Erich's eyebrows are open for business. They are so manishly thick. Like, everything about Fritz von Erich screams testosterone to me, Drew. It just exuded from this man. It sweated through his pores, literally, covered in sweat in the sports coat. And you hear the stories all the time about how hot it was in the Sportatorium from all the interviews of the guys. Literally, sometimes it'd be like 120 down there.
Absolutely.
Sweltering Fritz and Gene Goodson are kicking off the action for us tonight.
Sweltering Fritz.
Speaking of kicking off the action, a man that, holy Lord, my captain, Frank Dusek, Drew. Taking on Raul Castro. Now, for those, obviously, 3 guys in the fucking world probably know who Captain Frank Dusek is, and they probably all worked for World Class, if that. Explain to the people a little bit about Captain Frank and his appearance and his effervescent glory.
Well, Captain Frank is I don't know if you could say he's a body guy. Maybe middle-aged body guy. Nice and hairy. Got the kind of almost working on the Hulk Hogan hair look. And he's got the I think maroon tights, which make it look even just more classy, I would say. And then the real classy robe that makes him look kind of like a pirate.
God, that's a great description. I will say, the guy from Happy Gilmore, the giant man who gets a nail through the head. I will get you, shooter. That guy.
Yes.
He looks like his little deflated brother mixed with like a Jack Black in a way.
Yeah. I can see that.
Maybe some rock and roll Buck Zumhoff thrown in for good measure. I don't know, like a mixture of all those 3. The robe is one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen. It's like a quarter-piece robe. It's not a whole robe, but it's cut in such a erotic, Stan Lane-ish type of way. But the problem with that is it's on Captain Frank Dusek. And as a match, this was a kind of, I want to say a squash match, but it really wasn't, because there was some competitiveness here from Raul Castro. the masked luchador. Fucking, I swear to God, this guy probably just pulled double duty later on in the show.
I do find it really weird too that he was a masked wrestler and he just had a name, like that. Yeah. Raul, like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I don't know why he's wearing a mask, but that's cool.
Imagine having like this badass like Ultimo Dragonish fucking get up, and you've spent just all this money into it. Finally, and the promoter goes, "You're going out there as Steve Johnson." Oh, Steve. Maybe I can embroider an S and a J on it last second, but
right, with a question mark.
Captain Frank's embroidered letters.
Right. And before we forget, don't forget, we have an enforcer on the outside of the ring for this one, the Goon.
We do. Actually, Frank Dusek was a manager, and if you didn't know that, Fritz von Erich only told you 27 times on commentary that he was actually a manager. And I'm sorry, I audibly heard Gene Goodson. This is my first Goodson moment of the evening. Audibly heard saying this match is terrible. I don't know if you caught
that. They were obviously a little more honest down there in WCCW. So
it's the Texas way. Brother.
Right.
But I don't know. You've seen the classic WrestleMania 5 spot with the Rougeau brothers and the Bushwhackers, the infamous Botchamania crotch grab on the body slam.
Absolutely.
Did you catch it in this one?
No, I didn't.
There was a visibly big-time apparent dick grab from Captain Frank to Raul Castro. And I mean, he held it there like he was, God, something.
Like he was
forever.
Having a good time.
Other than that, Captain Frank gets the win with a shitty DDT, and that was that.
It wasn't that awful.
It was.
That was really bad.
It looks worse than like the DDT 3 finisher you get in the video game. Like there's like a terrible looking one. It's like worse than that.
Yeah.
After this, followed up though, first promo of the show with, God, the man who can just spit hot fire, Jose Lothario. If anything, I know he was a legend in Mexico, and I know like the mythos, the Shawn Michaels in the backstory, but man, not a good promo.
No, not at all. Not even. And you can almost get the sense that he's really trying as hard as he can, and it's coming across as just pitiful. It's
like the quintessential deer in headlights. Like I'm trying to remember what I went over before I came out here, and it's just not coming to me because I have anxiety because I'm past my prime, but I don't know. But then thankfully, and to save the promo day was Big Daddy Bundy once again this week.
Dude,
we got to know Big Daddy a little bit more, Drew.
He was amazing. I loved it. I thought now don't get me wrong, his promo wasn't flawless by any means, but I loved his personality in it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's kind of like him in these shoots now, where he's just laid back Bundy.
Yeah. And
but saying Feliz Navidad after Christmas for some reason.
Right. Did you notice when Jose said he should take on Andre the Giant?
Yeah, and spoiler alert, I think in an episode or two ahead of this, Andre comes around the territory, and we just may very well see that.
That would be the reason they mentioned him so many times in this episode.
I know by the end of 82 that Bundy was already full-fledged heel. He had already had the retirement match with Fritz that we'll get to later on at some point.
Wow.
So the turns are coming. I feel it. But just a good old, I can't really say a redneck country boy because he doesn't do the accent. He just literally Jersey Bundy. Just happy to be there and overweight and just there. I mean, he was really over, like we said on episode 1. He's still over here. The fans loved him. Good old Bundy.
Absolutely. He gave me the feeling in a promotion like this at the time, he came off as somebody that could be like a upper card babyface for sure.
Exactly. That did lead us to Drew. We butchered this man's fucking name last week, but I got it written down. I have my stuff together for you guys. Jesse Relampago Leone versus Wild Bill Irwin, like you said, the Goon.
Goon.
Not a bad match. I enjoyed this match.
No, I thought they were both pretty solid, but I was really impressed with Bill Irwin here. I guess I'd never really seen a lot of his early work.
Me either. I've seen some on like compilations of World Class. I've seen the Goon. Trust me, guys. I get it. You try wrestling with ice skates crafted onto your boots. But like you said, he showed great heel sight. He was a nasty heel. There were great spots for the time.
Chauncey.
For the time. Chauncey. Yes, I have written down Chauncey Irwin Chance. and Fritz just berating him for his real name being Chauncey, and the fans knew it.
Yeah.
We would kind of see that for more modern fans with the Irwin and IRS chants, kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly.
What
And
did
I
you
thought
think of that? The egging on of Chauncey.
all the way around, that's another thing that made me. It reminds me of uh, back in the day, a weekly wrestling TV show, and you have that same mid-card heel that comes out every time, and he's got that thing that the fans love to poke at him with, and he was really good in the ring.
Yeah, exactly. It's a timeless tactic, I feel, to get cheap heel heat, and it'll always work. You know what I mean? And
Right.
whenever I hear Chauncey, I automatically think Chauncey Billups has foot action from the commercial.
Yeah,
Always.
I thought that too.
God, they brainwash us so bad as kids with those. There was
Absolutely.
a nasty backbreaker. So good, I literally wrote down that spot from
Yeah.
Irwin in this match. Here's another one that I just want to point out. Bronco Lubitsch, one of the legendary referees from World Class, looked
Hmm.
just like Jesse Rolambico Leone, like his dad. And both of those guys look like an old and young version of Burt Reynolds. Did you see that at all,
Oh my
Drew?
God, they really do. I have it pull. I have it pulled up right in front of me right now.
Like Bronco Lubitsch is Boogie Nights Reynolds, and Leone is Smokey and the Bandit Reynolds. Totally.
Oh, that's amazing. It really is. Oh wow.
And once I
Okay, I'm gonna
saw it,
chop.
did you think I could unsee it? No, it stuck with me through the whole match.
That's great.
Wild Bill
Oh,
is the victor here. Um,
well
like it's a
deserved.
good match. Bill would go on to win like the Texas Heavyweight title. I know that, which was their top title. So he was very successful, and we would see him later going to what Crockett, right, Drew,
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
WWF.
Yep.
Yep.
And then he kind of just bounced around wherever after that.
I remember him in WCW right when Jim Herd started taking over, right in like '90, when all these fucking guys from the '80s were coming in for a cup of coffee, like Iron Sheik, while Bill Irwin, Jimmy Snuka came in, I think, for a WCW pay per view for a one shot, one and done. Yeah, but
And they they
the
caught about
Long
everybody.
Riders, right? Was that the tag
Right.
team?
Right. That's awesome.
I don't know, man. But obviously, much more success than the Goon. And I feel like we're going to see a lot. I know we're going to talk about a lot more Wild Bill Irwin on the course of the show.
Oh, I hope so. I was really impressed here, and what's cool about this, I think we mentioned it last week, but this is the first time I'm watching any of this. I mean, I've seen clips of the years and documentaries, but this is my first real watch through WCCW. So when these guys pop up like Bill Irwin, it's a real surprise to me, and then to see how good he was in the ring also, just fantastic.
Yeah, like I watched, like you, the documentaries, of course. I watched a good bit of some of the episodes, but it was more mainly like the prime of it with the Freebirds and all that drama. I never watched this era of the old guard phasing out while the Von Erichs and this new young breed, phased in. That's exactly what
Sure.
this is, the beginning of '82, and it's captivating in a way to see, for me at least, how they were just like pushed to the side because they weren't drawing anymore. And you can literally
Right.
look at the difference of the Von Erichs guys. If you're not familiar, for this time period, they were carved out of fucking granite. They look like gods compared to some of these over the hill guys that have been top as like the cards for years, and it was just they just screamed megastars. And like Drew and I said last week, and people say all the time, if they weren't Fritz's sons, they wouldn't have been top guys. That is complete horseshit. All you got to do is open your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And that takes us to my favorite part of this week's episode, my match of the week. Speaking of the Von Erichs, Kerry Von Erich is the first Von Erich on tonight's show. But before he gets to his match with the great Kabuki, we get some Gary Hart action. And thank you, by the way, Drew, for linking me something for the Gary Hart book or documentary coming out. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was great, classic Gary Hart.
Oh yeah, and you can see why that documentary will be so good, just because Gary Hart was amazing, and this was one of his classic promos, and the way he used the managers early on, I guess in this era, always did their kind of regular shtick with the whole thing, but Gary Hart had that first real methodical, quiet, eat at your soul kind of promos, and I loved it.
Yeah, you know what it is. I equate it to Bobby Heenan and Jimmy Hart, Grand Wizard. Those guys were great. Freddie Blassie was great. Freddie Blassie
Yep.
may be the closest to Gary Hart to remind me of this. What it was for me with Gary Hart, they put him on that whole other devious levels. Like, yeah, he would do all these things a typical heel manager would do, but he You could totally see Gary Hart just like slitting your wrists or your throat, like that. He comes off as pure evil. It's his look. He has this.
Absolutely.
He kind of has the sinister minister eyebrows going on, where he looks like pure satanic fucking. You know what I mean? Perfect guy in this. Perfect guy made for wrestling. Guy born for
Yeah.
wrestling is Gary Hart, in my opinion.
Stares into your soul.
He really does, and he has those cold eyes that like a Steve Austin had. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
comes right.
And as far as the now, of course, their delivery is much different in the level at which they're at, but can you see kind of the, I don't know what I would say, but a little bit of Paul Heyman taken from Gary Hart, just the way they deliver the promo and how the flow, I guess, of the verbiage.
I do. I see. And a great thing about Heyman is, when he broke in as a photographer, in the documentary about Heyman, he was surrounded by guys like Albano, Blassie, Wizard. He was brought up from the greats, so he took a little bit from everyone, I'm sure. And I'm sure he did cross paths with Gary Hart in the NWA in like '89. So I'm sure he sat under the learning tree from Gary Hart at some point.
You can see it for sure.
And if he didn't take the time to, he would be an idiot because one of the greats, like we said, maybe the most underrated manager ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's like we mentioned it last week, but we'll mention it again just because it deserves to be mentioned. The fact that he's not acknowledged very much in WWE throughout any of their stuff,
if at all, unless it's on like a world-class documentary. That's maybe the only time I've seen him referenced. Maybe on like when they're talking about Muda in the NWA, because that's really all he'd ever did in the NWA with Terry Funk and
Exactly.
But this match, there's nothing really to rag on about except, once again, Gene Goodson's fucking comments. Gene Goodson this time, guys, keeps urging the kids at home, whatever they do, not to try the moves shown by the great Kabuki.
Yep.
Over and over.
Exactly.
And by devastating moves, he means take 2 fingers and put them under somebody's fucking armpit and pinch them.
Yeah, right.
I love the great Kabuki so much.
There was at one point he said, mist causes Fritz to lose his vision. I'm just like, the delivery of this, the commentary is kind of, it's amazing.
I feel like if you made a drinking game for this, any episode with Kabuki on it with Gene Goodson on commentary, you would die. You would die from alcohol poisoning every time he says he is one of the most magical, mysterious wrestlers in the world. Like, he just, and that's fine to build a man up, but every 2 seconds. But there was nothing like Kabuki at the time. And even now, from '82, the promo, the get up with the mask, the mist pouring through the mask was the best for me.
That was awesome. I loved when that happened. That was fantastic. Yeah, well done.
It's Kabukish. Everything
Kabukish.
About it.
It's Kabukish, baby. Kabukish.
The best part about a Kabuki match is just like when Flair bleeds, you get messier and messier the match goes, at least in the early days of Kabuki, because both men were covered in paint completely by the end of this match.
Right. Absolutely. And just having that green everywhere, and you can always tell when you get into a match if the opponent has like the mist sprayed all over their face and chest. It's like, yeah, that's great. I love it.
Of course, Kerry Von Erich. Devastation Incorporated was the Gary Hart, or no, that wasn't Gary Hart. That was what's his face? God damn. Skandar Akbar, his stable.
There you go.
With Missing Link Kamala. Kabuki would later go into that when Gary Hart would leave World Class in '82. It was never the same. I feel like Kabuki needed Gary Hart in a way. Something about him, man, and those Japanese guys back then. With Muda did the same thing, but
kept them mysterious.
The kicks were so crisp, and everything about a Von Erich match back then was just stiff, and they could work, and they just had it. And within a guy, you could just tell a story with like a Kabuki who got it completely. One of the most legendary figures in the history of Japanese wrestling, from the nunchucks, everything, dude. This was amazing, and I would say go out of your way to watch any Kerry Von Erich Great Kabuki match from this time, because I know they're good. They have a couple.
Yeah. There's nothing that I didn't like about this match, top to bottom.
Well, there is for me. Not really the finish, but, and I'm glad they saw it by the end of the '82. Fritz Von Erich coming out after like a interference from Gary Hart, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
How did you feel about Fritz towards this end, tagging with his sons? Was it too much for you? Because obviously Fritz was an older man.
Yeah.
I
never liked that. I don't care any promotion, any era, unless the father and the father-son team was still an active wrestler, I think it's ridiculous.
I think only a few times I liked it. I was okay with the Axe and Kurt Hennig because they kind of jobbed the LOD. I hated it with Stu Hart. That was probably the hardest to watch for me.
That's the one I was thinking of when you mentioned that. That was the exact one back to.
Probably the one I was best with was Dusty and Dustin, of course, because Dusty could still go.
That's what I was about to say.
There you go. God, we're gonna get into so many arguments on this show, Drew. I can tell.
Right? Shut up.
But yeah, Fritz came out after interference from Gary Hart and just beat the shit out of Kabuki. The match was thrown out. Well, actually, the DQ was given to Kabuki. For some reason, Kerry Von Erich and Fritz demanded that they reverse the decision. You just attacked a participant. You want to reverse? Oh, wait, you and the company. I don't know if David Manning reversed it by the end of this because it was all hell on the outside. And Gene Goodson having a fucking heart attack that Fritz left the announce booth.
Yeah. And I wasn't... Now that you'd say, I guess I was thinking more of the in-ring action piece, but I wasn't a fan of any of that at the end. That wasn't...
If anything, I was a fan of the crowd's heat. Like, my God.
Yeah. I guess I just... Like we just said about even the in-ring action, Fritz even being out there, I'm like, no, good. Go away.
Yippee. But that was that. I mean, God. And this is what I kept thinking watching this. And so many times I've heard David Von Erich, and I've said it, and I agree that he was the best Von Erich, but watching matches with Kerry like this sometimes, I question that, because sometimes I wonder if Kerry was truly the total package. And even Kevin once in a while when I see a kick-ass match, I feel like they're just all three so good, and you're never going to see three siblings like that at the same time again, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we automatically in our minds with Kerry go to thinking about his WWF days and maybe some of like the right before that, and he was more exciting back then, like his younger days here, like this match.
It was the shuffle every 30 seconds and the 80s workout headbands and the flower jackets and just the girls, man. Like, God, Kerry had it, everything, and you can see why he would be at the time, right, the youngest NWA World Champion.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
There you go. That was that. Go out of your way, guys. Check this out. Definitely, you would agree, match of the night on this.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. We got Armand Hussein still to talk about, Joe. Okay. That led us to, quite frankly, a disappointing... I mean, I get it sometimes. Squash match. Maybe it was fine here, I guess, to get Kevin over, but I just would have liked to see more. Kevin Von Erich and Carlos Zapata. Pretty much a nothing match. Kevin getting his shit in and winning by submission. That was that.
Yeah. How about that submission? He, jumped into the air and grabbed him by his legs and a body scissors and just hung there for a second. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. It's something about a world-class episode. Every single one, or usually I find myself seeing a weird move I've never seen before that looks usually more times than not unintentional. Like they just covered it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like that in the Irwin match with that backbreaker you were talking about. You didn't see that a whole lot back then. It seemed more like a kind of a
that was legit a Roderick Strong backbreaker you would have seen in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like one of his innovative ones, but just as a baseline, how you do a nasty backbreaker. That's what it was, and nothing like that was at the time, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gene Goodson, though, here's his line of the night. You ready? Did you catch
it?
When Kevin Von Erich, also the highlight of the match, when Kevin Von Erich was exiting the ring after his victory, Gene Goodson on commentary, and I quote, "Kevin Von Erich is one young, beautiful specimen." There is your quote of the week on Never Drew a Dime. My God. What's his face? Bill Mercer can't come soon enough. I'm praying for Bill Mercer next week, Drew, at this point.
Right. See, and then next week he'll be like, what a beautiful specimen. I'm going to go watch him shower. We'll see you next week, folks.
And we're back. I masturbated, and everything's good. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's why I got fired. That's why I was replaced. Young boy scandal. Shout out to Mel Phillips. It brings us to this week's main event. The madman Armand Hussein. I can never get his name right. And Killer Tim Brooks, the back hair and all, taking on the human pug and the human baby pug in fluorescent baby pants.
Yep.
And the man of the hour. He's never going to be sour. Drew, will you please, from high atop, give us this week's Star of the Week's intro?
Tom, Tom Boogaloo Shaft.
Hashtag Boogaloo Shaft. The man returns. Get to know a little bit more about the legend this week. Get to know he was a tough man winner. We never caught that last week. And he won $200,000 in a month, according to Gene Goodson's logistics.
What a success story. That's all I can say.
I mean, I'd like to think that, he was that hard of a fighter and was that great that he just
Yeah.
tore his body to shit that the time he was a professional wrestler, he just stunk to high heaven because, man,
yeah.
at least the
And he spent
butterfly
that.
on the asshole of the tights was back for you this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say he spent that prize-winning money on that sweet embroidery.
Yeah. The hits, unfortunately, Drew, have not stopped with Gene Goodson. I got one more here written down. First botchamania of the night, Drew. Gene Goodson slips up and calls him Boogaloo Johnson for no fucking reason. Not a Johnson on the card, not a Johnson probably in the state of Texas, but he's just got Johnson on the mind. It's the beautiful specimens, I tell you, with this fucking guy.
Well, hey, when you're talking about a sweet shaft, it's not far off from a Johnson.
Maybe his name was really, I don't know. Christ, there's just dicks everywhere right now.
There's Dick Johnson. Dick Boogaloo Johnson.
My God.
Chauncey.
I will say we got a tremendous Tom Boogaloo Shaft shuffle, followed by a punch this week. It was great, and I kind of feel since he went after Kerry and saw the heat he was getting, he kind of feel like he needed to steal into his own shuffle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom Boogaloo Shaft, I can't his fucking name. I can't say it. Tom Boogaloo Shaft. Since our first episode, I've actually Wikipedia'd him. I've Google imaged him. Not a lot of info about the man himself, and I kind of like it that way. Leave it open. Fucking
give him a little mystery for us to make up our own backstory for.
Yeah, I want to.
We can dream.
Part of me has to feel like he's Shelton Benjamin's father. That's where he is at, and that's how
Shelton Boogaloo Benjamin.
He's got the genes to be like a Golden Gopher and an NCAA champion from his dad, Tom Boogaloo Shaft, and his tough man winning.
I can see that.
Was another old guard, old man punch and kick match. Nothing to it. I guess the crowd heat was okay. We got to learn more about Armand Hussein too. Actually, Gene Goodson was actually decent here, describing how his father owns land, just building him up as this rich fucking heel from overseas, and how his kids attend a private London school and blah blah blah. And I did like that. So shout out to you, Goodson. Finally, it only took you the whole show to get fucking good or warmed up.
Yeah, it was back when they had weekly television and time to give you a little backstory so you could, watch a couple episodes and know who everybody is and what they're about.
Exactly. Time limit draw and just a bullshit schmoz finish, and the crowd chanted 5 more minutes, and they wanted 5 more minutes.
The end was just, the guys split off in the ring and punching each other and like dancing back and forth, like punch and the wobble and the wobble and the boogaloo. It was great.
Wobble the boogaloo. It's like a song. And between that, fucking Jose Lothario like enticing the crowd for 5 more minutes is like, that was your main event. Kerry Von Erich and Great Kabuki went on third for some reason.
Yeah. Well, and when I first saw that on the match listing, I've assumed that was the main event automatically. I was very surprised that it wasn't.
Boogaloo only goes on last, as we're coming to learn.
Yeah.
He doesn't take anybody's shit. He doesn't care if you have 40 sons in your company. He's not going on before last.
Yeah. Well, and think about it, too. Boogaloo's been on 2 weeks in a row.
Hits keep coming. Man, I hope he's on every episode. Every fucking one.
We'll see how long the streak will stay alive.
Somehow he transitions to a backstage interview or some point or something. Give us more Boogaloo.
The Boogaloo Hour.
That was this week's episode. Other than that, just a little send-off from Gene Goodson and his fucking notebook for some reason tucked under his arm like he got done jerking off. Like we said, it was creepy. Now thinking about it.
That was pretty creepy.
Just telling you, if you get a chance to go, not just world-class wrestling, but if you get a chance to see pro wrestling, get out of your house and go do it. Just encouraging you, and we'll see you next week. And that was that was this week's episode. How many dimes out of 10 do you give this week's episode of World Class?
So I would say I could easily give this one 7 dimes out of 10.
I'm pretty much there with you. I'd about to say 7, maybe 7.5.
Yeah, because
Something like
the Kabuki Von Erich match really could honestly just make anything could have been surrounding that, and it kind of made the show for me. But then with the goofiness of the main event, and then the surprise by Bill Irwin, yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, pretty much everything from the second match with Irwin through the end of the Kabuki Von Erich, that was 5 dimes for me alone. Just those two, they were so good for its time.
Yeah, yeah, and
Today it wouldn't be anything special. Fans would probably chant boring for those matches today, but just like seeing what they
sure.
did back then.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to be the wrestling fan that's watching these for the first time, and just even if a match sucks, just intrigued about learning who these guys I've never seen before are.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Look how much goodness we've gotten already in 2 episodes, Drew.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm a fan. Let's go to the Sportatorium.
Yeah, if it wasn't tore down, apparently.
Yeah, we'll try.
A little preview for next week. I know finally we get to talk about some Iceman King Parsons, one of the most captivating characters in History of World Class. I'm excited for that. I really loved, and we never talk about, just to make up some filler real quick, about World Class, because quite honestly, I could talk about World Class forever. The camera work at the time, this was all brand new. Maybe we talked about this, but maybe we didn't, but I'll talk about it again. The handhelds up, the guys up on the apron, you never see, before this, it was strictly hard cam shots.
Right. Yeah, and it looks amazing. I think the production value of it, you could tell that it's older, but honestly, the fact that this is 1982 really surprises me, because it looks like it's way later in the 80s because of those things you mentioned. And then even to the point where some of the camera angles are so different for the time. Like, I was watching one of these matches and looking at the ring, I'm like, is that ring huge, or is that camera angle just making it look amazing? Like,
yeah, man, I totally agree. And I feel like the camera work in this little, whatever episode of World Class from 82 is right on par with Starrcade 83, because it seemed like Crockett was playing catch up for what Fritz and them did first. Yeah. It was like, what can we do that they did that was so successful?
Absolutely. And then they also, I've noticed through these 2 episodes, I don't know how big that building actually is that they're in. I mean, I've seen some pictures and stuff, but the camera angles and the way they shot it and the lighting, it feels huge.
Exactly. I think the Sportatorium and possibly the ECW Arena for me are 2 of the best locations ever, for they look so much bigger on TV than they really are.
Absolutely. And it always feels just like a main event crowd, I guess.
The Sportatorium was amazing. There's a shoot interview floating around with Paul Bearer and Jim Cornette. I don't know if you ever watched that.
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
But they go, because everyone knew Percy Pringle and World Class. There's so much stories from him about World Class and even Cornette, and it was built like a Roman Coliseum, like it arched, like an angle towards the ring. So it had that going for it, which is tremendous. It was basically built for boxing, boxing, and then it, transitioned into wrestling. From what I know about it, and it was this old. Everyone says this old 10 building, blah blah blah, and You ever heard the story about the French fries, at least, the World Class?
No.
Apparently, giant rats would walk on the metal railings above, and sometimes they'd fall. And where do you think they would fall sometimes? In the French fryers.
Oh, no.
Apparently the legend about the Sportatorium and their French fry grease is they'd never changed the grease in like 30 years, and that's why everybody loved the fries. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have that with restaurants. That's why people go to that place. They finally drained the grease after it closed down or something, and they found like 2 or 3 rat corpses, like bones and.
That's what gives it that little bit of extra flavor.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Man, but I feel like it's obviously it's only going to get better with every episode of this, because we're in like the surge phase right now of World Class, if anything, Drew. Not the downward, everyone's dying spiral, which. Man, this show's going to get depressing, guys, in later episodes, but we'll try to do our best.
Well, and right now I'm excited, I would say, mainly for more Kabuki. Weirdly enough, now that you mention that, I didn't know, but Bill Irwin and